Interestingly, from the manuka palm you can also take the leaves, which I've already trimmed down from the tips off, and you can weave the leaves inside each other, alternating, and end up with something that's called a washi backpack. I'll give this one a go. If it doesn't work out, I've got one I made earlier in the week which I can show you, but sadly we don't have the materials in the UK to do these, otherwise they'd make a lovely addition to things that we do. Quality of the leaves and how fit the tree was really going to determine how well this turns out for you. But the monkeys are back. It is throw some things at ray time. So I expect that to come down very shortly. Just takes a bit of time, a bit of patience. And perseverance and persistence with the mozzies, obviously. It's the kind of thing that would be lovely to do in schools if we had the materials back home, but you just simply don't. If you miss one, just correct it. It's like anything, if you spot a mistake and you don't go back, then it'll always be there. So you're better off just correcting it at the time. There's two parts to it. This is the first part, and the second part is where you turn it around and make the top braided section. I wish you guys could be here, it's just phenomenal. So much to keep you occupied. It's such a pleasant way to be. The more you handle leaves, the more they degrade, which you'd expect. When they're fresh, they're very thick, very leathery, very supple, very forgiving. And in the direction of plane that you're pulling, that's where they're strongest. If you start folding them and doing things with them, that's where they struggle and they snap. But, historically, these would have been made by the men while out hunting and gathering to allow them to bring the bits and pieces back to the village to share. So they would make these out in the field to catch, their fish or whatever, and they'd pack them up in these. There was another type that Damien was trying to prepare the other day with the mukra stems, which I didn't get to see the finished result, but hopefully he's finished it when I go back and I can see, because I've prepared some mukra stems myself. I'll redo this. Okay, so that's the first part, which is relatively straightforward. The second part, and that's what you kind of end up with. That's the first part. The second part is where it all gets turned around. And this is a little bit tricky to get started, this next part. We'll see how we go. It's the same principle, over, under, over, under. It's just that you're pulling it up towards you in a different plane. So once you get started, it's kind of okay, but the getting started is not quite so easy. And of course you need to watch out for the ants and all the other creepy crawlies that are out there whilst you're doing this. You kind of need three hands at times to manage all the leaves, but and of course the other downside to not having eaten for a few days is cramps. So this is not the best position to be in for a long period of time if you haven't eaten. But we'll see how we go. Okay, nearly there. Okay, so where I am now, I'll pull it a little bit tight at the top, and then we'll work on this side first. And start to braid. Standard braid. Every now and then you splice in the leaves from the outside just to extend them, a bit like a French braid. Until you get to the end, at which point you tie it off, finish the other side as we do in a second. Hopefully the battery doesn't run out. Very simple overhand knot. Same thing again. And there you have it. Not the prettiest, but for demonstration purposes I think it shows what I wanted. Overhand knot. And there you've got it. You'd get some bush rope from the cacarelli tree, or you'd get some bush rope from the vine that hangs, and you could stitch it and lace it together here and here, and then you could even put on some backpack straps on it here as well. The other one I did, just to give you an idea, here, and I've got the bush rope on it, so I can sling it around my shoulder if need be. A bit like a quiver, but it's not a quiver. But also, there's more bush rope here to lace up. So this one is probably, I don't know, 4 days old, and you can see the difference in the materials. 4 days old and it's already started to wither. It's still not completely crumbly, but it's big enough and strong enough to be able to make it out in the field, pack up what you need, your fish, your coconut nuts, your game that you've hunted, bring it back to the village, and then it just rots away. It's a sort of a single or 2 or 3 time use whilst out as a hunter-gatherer. But really brilliant bit of kit. I love the technique. This one was a bit neater, the one I did the other day. The leaves were fresher and not so diseased. These ones still there, but you can see a little bit tarnished on how they are. Well, there you go. That's a washi backpack.